No young man should stumble his way into manhood. The best gift we can give as a father is a clear pathway. Every boy needs a moment where he's called out of boyhood and into manhood, where his strength is tested, his faith is forged, and his father's voice calls him forward. That's why we created the BraveCo Rite of Passage. It's a 30-hour weekend where fathers and sons encounter God together. We're going to break a wild horse. We're going to push limits and leave forever changed. Guys, this isn't a retreat. It's not a conference. It's a rite of passage. Join us February 28th through March 1st, 2026 in Jacksonville, Florida. Visit braveco.org to learn more about this. We live in a time where masculinity is shamed and men don't know what it means to be a man. As a pastor and counselor, I've spent the better part of my life equipping and training others. My goal with this show is to translate my hard-earned experience into tools and tactics to help you become stronger as a man. This is the BraveCo Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Bellet. Welcome back, everyone, to the BraveCo Podcast. This week, we are going to dive back into some questions that you guys have sent us. It's one of my favorite things to do. If you haven't jumped on one of our live Q&As, just watch us monthly. I go live Thursdays, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can also jump on the link and talk to me in person. But we had some people send in a bunch of questions this week. So I'm going to dive into those and cover them. Here's the first question. I'm newer to a city and trying to make connections. I want to start dating, but I don't know any alternatives to online dating. Do you have any recommendations or advice on what I should do? Honestly, it's a great question. Man, back when I started dating, there was no such thing as online dating, right? The world is changing so much. And when I was dating, you had to be in person. You had to actually pick up a landline, and call, and usually try and hide inside of your room. Hopefully your landline had long enough cords. But nowadays, the landscape is changing. The online dating game is massive. And honestly, I feel like still the best place to find a woman to meet is at church. And if I was in a world right now where I had to find a wife, I would be spending a lot of time at church events, and getting in front of the people that ultimately you're hoping to find to marry. I kind of had a rule. I think the online world is easier for people because there's marketing and there's advertising involved in it, right? Like you have a whole page that's dedicated to marketing and advertising you and seeing everyone else. But I think if you learned how to market and advertise yourself in a way that obviously wasn't cheesy and not threatening, and natural and normal, you're going to have a lot better chances in at church or wherever you're at to find somebody. And so, again, I didn't have, there was no internet when I started dating. When I went through my divorce in 2009, actually 2007, 2009, I was single again, because of my divorce. And I actually waited a long time before I started dating, just as a promise, to my kids and to my spiritual leaders. But ultimately I kind of had a rule. Once I knew that I was good to go, I, I basically said, any woman that I see that is really interesting to me, I'm going to take 3 to 5 minutes and I'm going to initiate a conversation. That was my rule. So literally I could be up front closing worship on a Sunday morning, and I would just happen to see a lady walk in that I was like, oh, that lady looks really kind or interesting or beautiful. I'm going to have a couple-minute conversation with her. Sometimes I would find out in the middle of the conversation that she's married. Listen, it's no harm, no foul. I would just start a conversation with them. Hey, I'm Jason. Who are you? Oh, I'm Mary. It's great to meet you. Are you new to the church? Yeah, actually, my husband and I go here all the time. Of course, that's my cue to go like, oh, that's cool. What's your husband do for work? And the conversation's just normal, because that's real, right? Some ladies don't wear rings. Sometimes I didn't see a ring until I started talking to them. But But inevitably, what would happen a lot of times is a girl would say, "Oh, I go to the second service. I'm just here at the first service." And I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool. Are you in the school of ministry?" I'm having a conversation with her as a pastor, right? I'm just as a guy. I'm just there. I'm working, and my rule was, for me, I'm always going to close down that conversation after about 5 minutes. What I'm trying to do is to figure out, is this girl engaging? Is she not engaging? I'm trying to start a conversation. Is she single? Is she not single? I'm trying to start a conversation with her, because if I have a conversation, then next week or a couple days from now, if I bump into her and she's not married and she's interesting and she gives back in the conversation, I can pick up where I left off. And honestly, like, more often than not, you find out like a girl's really interesting. She's fun to talk to. She may not be your type, but the more girls in a non-creepy way, that's the key, that I was able to connect with and talk to, eventually that led to me marrying my wife, Lauren. I married Lauren because I saw her in a coffee shop in Hebrews, started a conversation with her. So she had some context for me. I had some context for her. And then, later on, my roommate became friends with her and I became friends with her, and we have a conversation. You can't find somebody who doesn't know that you exist. To me, that's a big deal. And if you don't know how to start a conversation with a woman, or if you're not starting conversations with women in a really cool, low stakes, kind type of way, you're not a guy that's just dating every girl, but you're having a conversation. If you have no way of starting the conversation, you really don't have any way of moving forward with anybody. And then you're stuck with, social media or online dating because, well, your in-person game sucks. So I'm a big fan of, like, grow your in-person game. Get really good at being super personable, asking a couple great questions. Where are you from? What brought you here? If you're at church, that's easy. Hey, where are you from? What brought you here? How long have you been going here? That's cool. What do you do for fun? And if you have that conversation and they're interested and they're giving back and they ask you some questions, then you have somewhere to go from. If you don't, then you're just stuck, right? You're just stuck with nothing else to go through. So that's my advice to you. I asked a girl out one time. I was with my dad, clothes shopping, 2009 again, and I met this girl, who was selling clothes. She was working at a store that my dad was interested in. I just struck up a conversation with her. I found out that she went to a church in town, and she was pretty. She was good looking. She seemed really kind. She was engaging. So after my dad was done shopping, like, I just went back there and I walked into the store and I was like, "Hey, um, if you don't have a boyfriend, I'd love to take you out to dinner sometime." And she was like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome." Super low stakes, no pressure. But that started a short relationship. I ended up breaking up with her. Not breaking up, we weren't even going out. I ended up just going like, "Hey, thanks so much for going out with me a couple times. I appreciate it. Um, I'm not feeling a bunch of peace about moving forward, but man, you're awesome. I appreciate it." And that was just a way that, right, I was yeah, I was playing the game. Um, Looking for somebody that was fun to connect with and the possibility of dating and growing a relationship with. So I think we have to grow our in-person skills, guys. You got to get good at having conversations. And really, honestly, the best way to do that is to have conversations. Have a couple questions in queue that you can ask any woman in any setting, and it's going to be an easy, simple, comfortable conversation. And from there, you have a chance to continue and the conversation later on. All right, great question. Question number 2, is emotional abuse a good enough reason to leave my wife? I want to fix this, but she seems way off and doesn't feel like there's hope. And that's a great question. Emotional abuse is not less than physical abuse or, um, you know, I think emotional abuse is definitely, if you're being emotionally abused by your spouse, and they have, they're taking no ownership of it. They're not willing to take ownership of it. You've gone to get help. They don't want to do that. I'm not God, so not trying to play God. I'm saying, hey, that's definitely a relationship in which you would need to set boundaries. You would need to go, hey, you know, I'm not your punching bag. I love you. I care for you, but until you go get help, I'm not gonna just stay in this relationship and be abused. So setting up some really healthy boundaries, I think before you go like, I'm getting a divorce, to me, that would be way secondary. I don't tell people they should get a divorce or not, but should you set some really healthy boundaries? Absolutely. I don't think that you should set those on your own. So to me, the in this kind of scenario, emotional abuse, if you've been emotionally abused in your past, sometimes it's easy to have a trigger there and to feel like any confrontation that you get in a relationship is emotional abuse. So you just have to be careful. Like, I think the term emotional abuse is widely used nowadays, and so I think we just have to be careful what we classify as emotional abuse. But this is where I love pulling in a counselor or a pastor, somebody that's going to have really good insight into your life that may be able to come in and be a liaison between you and your spouse. Somebody that has a really fresh perspective that's able to go, hey, what you're seeing as emotional abuse actually isn't emotional abuse, it's da 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 da. Or, hey, what you're accepting is, bro, you're being gaslit. You're being beat up in this relationship emotionally. Like, you need to set some boundaries. Let me come in and help you and help walk you guys through this and help create a plan. The ultimate thing for me always, and I've worked a lot with people where they're in physically abusive relationships. I've worked with people where they're in emotionally abusive relationships, sexually abusive relationships, and all the above. Some were ended in divorce, and quite a few that we've actually fixed and repaired. And to me, it's, what's the plan? What's the big plan that you're working on? So setting boundaries is awesome. But to have a real plan that somebody is helping you guys individually work through, and then as a married couple, I just worked with a couple for a year, almost a year exactly to this date. Um, there was a lot of verbal abuse, emotional abuse, and then some physical abuse in this marriage. And by actually helping to be the liaison between them, helping them to understand what their triggers are, understand what their pain points are, and then to help the married couple create a plan. What's his plan for when he gets out of control? What's her plan for when she gets out of control? And to come up with that was a game changer for them, and their marriage is drastically different today. So I think before you just leave, um, stopping and finding who's a great person that can intervene. Let's invest in some help here and see if we can't grow our marriage, and get out of this painful spot. So that's what I would say. Great question. Question number 3: how can I build back trust with my wife again? She caught me looking up porn years ago, but she keeps holding it over my head even when I've been healed, and I haven't looked at anything since. Okay, this is such an awesome question, because oftentimes what happens is when you have when you have broken down trust in an area for a long time and created a lot of damage, oftentimes the person that was causing so much pain, they do go through this healing journey, right? You're no longer looking at pornography. You're taking a bunch of ownership. You're doing what you think is right. The challenge becomes, if you haven't made amends, if you haven't gone back and met the person where they're at and helped be present for their healing process, then they're still stuck back in the past wound. And you can say all you want, like, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm I've done everything I know to do. Well, if they're not healed, then the story's not over. And you get to show back up for them and help them through the process of healing. Now, what that doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that you can solve somebody's pain, that you can go in there and fix it for them. even though you caused a bunch of pain for them, it's not your job to fix it, but it is your responsibility to show up and to be present inside of their pain. And that's a big deal. I watch a lot of married couples in this very scenario, where a guy had, I can think of one right now where a guy had an affair. He got caught and he took a lot of ownership. He went through courses. A year later, she still feels pain, which is, who's to say that she shouldn't feel pain, right? She drives past the hotel that he was having an affair at, and she feels a lot of pain. And this is actually a case where I had to step in. Uh, she brings up like, man, I'm just really struggling today. I'm struggling with a bunch of disappointment that you had that affair. I feel afraid that you're going to do it again. And he blows up. He just explodes. He's like, you're always going to hold this over me. I'm never going to be out from underneath your judgment. And so at that moment, they literally said, we're going to get a divorce, blah, blah, blah. So I jumped on the phone with him like 2 days later. And he says these words to me. She always holds it over my head. I spent a whole entire year doing everything I know to do. I'm going to the classes. I'm even, I'm being kind with her, but it doesn't matter what I do. She constantly brings up the past over and over and over again. And I'm like, super frustrating. I get it. Can I ask you a question? He says, yeah, ask me whatever question you want. I said, are you that same man? He's like, no, that's the problem. I'm not that guy anymore. And she keeps saying that I am that guy. She keeps going like, I can't believe you did that. It hurts me so bad. And I said, bro, if you're not that guy anymore, do you like that guy that you were? He's like, no, I hate that guy. I'm like, totally. You have the same values that you used to have? No. Okay. So is it safe to say that if you don't like that guy, if you're not proud of him, that she's probably not proud of him either? It's like, yeah. I said, so if you're not proud of that guy and she doesn't like that guy that you used to be, when she brings up the pain today about what happened back then, if you're not that guy, why don't you just look at her and go, gosh, I hate that guy too. I'm so sorry I put you through that. I never want to be that guy again. Why can't you validate her pain and go, that guy, we both agree that that guy sucks. Anytime you want to come to me and talk about that guy, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. He literally went, oh my gosh, I've never thought about that. He said, like, dude, when you said that, this light bulb came out. It completely changed the relationship because he feels the whole time she's going, I'm in pain. And he's like trying to defend himself. This guy who was having an affair, he's trying to defend the guy who was having an affair. And it's like, bro, if that's not you anymore, then show up for her. And guess what? If you show up for her, and you don't just abandon her and go, that's not me anymore. I don't want to hear about it. You're trying to hold me under that. Until you validate her pain, she's going to keep talking about it. And it's going to keep coming up in the relationship. Show up for her, validate her pain, be a man that can hold her emotions, and the healing process will begin. Trust isn't built by the absence of mistakes. It's built by how you clean up a mess. So if you continually bring evidence to the table that you are who you say that you are, how do you bring fresh evidence every single day? You show up emotionally, show up mentally, you show up physically. You refuse to leave your wife in the past. You take ownership and you give her a safe place for her to feel safe, to feel seen, to feel known. So that's an awesome question. Okay, let me grab this last one for you guys today. Okay, my father died when I was 18. He was never a part of my life. Um, how do I now give my children something I did not get from him? My father's dad drowned when he was 3 years old, and his other stepfathers were very abusive. Uh, so he actually grew up in a home where his dads were physically, emotionally, mentally abusive. And what really saved my dad was when my dad got saved. He got saved in the Jesus movement. And there was this man named Art Kipperman when he got saved, that came and became his spiritual father. Now, when my dad got saved, the guy who was leading him to Christ basically said, "You need a spiritual father. You can have this guy or this guy." And my dad tells the story and he says, "I just picked the better looking guy." I didn't know them. They were barely older than me. They were like 3 years older than him. But in the Jesus movement, it was really a discipleship shepherding movement. And so that was what you did. Well, my dad picked this guy, and so for the next 3 years of his life, he met every single week with Art Kipperman. And Art wasn't this amazing, incredible teacher. Art was just very, very consistent with my dad. He spent lots of time teaching him how to read the word, how to pray, how to be consistent, how to show up. And then when my dad moved to Weaverville from the Bay Area, he found a man by the name of Bill Derryberry. And he actually asked Bill Derryberry if he would father him. And eventually he found Bill Johnson, and Bill Johnson became a father figure in his life. It's really interesting. I had an incredible father in my life, an incredible dad. My dad was such a good dad. And yet my dad didn't give me everything as a son that I needed to also be a great dad. My dad gave me a really great start. He gave me a really great foundation. But over the years, I've invited other men into my life. Danny Silk is a great father of mine. I love him. What does it mean to invite a father in? It means that you serve. So as a son, you know, I brought in lots of fathers into my life, and what that's looked like is practically serving them, going over their house, mowing their lawns, splitting wood, making time for them, inviting them out to dinner. We would all love for a man to a spiritual father to chase us down, but I've just realized, like when you're young, that might happen, but as you get older, what you want, you're going to have to go out of your way to get. And you invite men into your life by being willing to serve them. And if you'll be the first person to serve them and not worry about, I'm giving all my time to you and you're not giving anything to me. If you'll be a great servant, you'll probably find a man that feels like you're good soil to invest in. And what I found is that every father really is interested in investing in men that are good investments. And so, if you have a son, um, if you have a son that takes your advice, that walks out the plan that you give him, you're probably going to keep pouring into him and giving him advice. And so that's what I would say, man. You gotta get around other men that are older than you that you can serve. That looks like a men's group. Join a BraveCo group, join a 12-week Foundations of Masculinity group. They're free. Jump at your local church and join a small group, or serve there. But you're gonna, some way or another, what you're looking for is a man that has some of what you're looking for. He doesn't have to be the best athlete. He doesn't have to be the richest guy, any of that. You're looking for a guy that has time, that has maybe an area, something that you're good at. Um, and then make yourself available to them. I think the whole deal, partly where guys struggle is they're like, "Can I go get coffee with you?" A guy will do that once in a while, every once in a while. I think that's a good starting point. But really, beyond that, it's like, "Hey, could I come over and help you work on your house? Can I come to this class that you're teaching?" Several guys that I've fathered over the years that were just a tiny bit younger than me, because I was, whatever class I was teaching, they would come and help set up. They would help tear down. Marriage classes. Like I have this guy that I'm thinking about right now. His name's Jordan. And because him and his wife would come to any marriage class I was teaching, any emotional health class I was teaching, they were always there. They would stay late. They would come early. They'd help set up things. Because of that, like I just went like, man, if you're going to give me all this time, I'm going to give you my effort and energy. Like you obviously are taking the things that I'm doing and value them. I'm going to value you. And I think that that's the exchange that most fathers and men are looking for at our age. I find that most young men are looking for a father that's going to chase them down. That's not going to happen. You're going to have to grind. You're probably going to have to be hungry and show up and show that what they're saying is valuable to you. Um, I have a lot of men that are willing to help with BraveCo. And they're not just saying like, I'll help. They're actually show up like, hey, can I come and volunteer at the event? And can I help you raise support for the gala? Or can I help lead this team? Or man, I'll just come pick up trash. And I actually have guys that do it. And they're the ones hunting me down, and they show up time after time and after time. And before you know it, like I build a relationship with a guy like that. I want to pour into him. When he's got a challenge, I want to meet his challenge and help him. I think that that's the way, that's the best way that I know. That's the way that I do it. I find men in my life that I love, that I care for. I actually have a stored note inside my phone that reminds me to call guys. So I have a whole list of men in my life that I don't want to forget to keep up with, and I'm the one that initiates that. So I think the same thing, man. If you're building a relationship with some men in your life, be the one that reaches out on a regular basis that says, "Hey man, I appreciate you. Hey, I love you. Hey, how can I pray for you today? Hey, I'm going to get a coffee. Can I grab you one?" Like if you're intentional and you pour your effort and energy into them, the natural response is then for them to pour back into you. So, guys, I hope these Q&As are helping you. I love your questions. Please send them in to us. You can send them in to jason@braveco.org or wherever. If it has a braveco.org email, there's lots of them. You can go to admin@braveco.org, send in your emails to us, and and we'll answer the questions that you have. Otherwise, have an incredible week. We'll see you next week on the BraveCo Podcast.
Hey, BraveCo men. Hopefully you loved this week's episode. Listen, if you have not subscribed to our podcast, you are already behind. Go ahead and click right here to subscribe to our podcast. And if you have not watched last week's episode, you can click right here and watch last week's episode. And listen, if you want to upgrade your wardrobe, you can check out some of our new hats that we have in stock and all our other swag. Go to braveco.org and you can look at our store there. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.